There is a night in the city of Medina that changed everything. The Prophet, peace be upon him, wakes up feeling wrong. His mind is heavy, his body is exhausted, and the people closest to him can see it too. Something is off. But no one knows what. No one knows where it started, and no one knows how deep it goes. This is not a story most people know in full, but it is the story behind 5 verses that you have recited perhaps hundreds of times in your life. 5 verses that were not revealed as theory or philosophy. They were revealed as a direct response to a real attack on the most beloved of Allah's creation. And if that could happen to him, the question you need to sit with is, what about you? Before we begin, where in the world are you watching this from? Drop your country in the comments. We read every single one. Let us go back to Medina. Islam is spreading rapidly. Every morning, new faces enter the masjid. Every evening, the message reaches further into the city. The companions around the Prophet, peace be upon him, can feel the momentum. Something extraordinary is happening. But not everyone is welcoming it. Among the tribes of Medina, certain leaders watch their authority quietly dissolve. People who once came to them for counsel are now following a different guidance. Their social power, their standing, their relevance, all of it is fading with every new person who accepts Islam. They are desperate, and desperation makes people do things they would not otherwise consider. They go looking for a man named Labid ibn al-Asam. Labid was known not for scholarship, not for virtue. He was known for something darker, a knowledge of sorcery that people whispered about. They approach him with an offer: gold, protection, support, and in return, they want one thing: stop him. Labid agrees, but he needs something that belongs to the Prophet, peace be upon him, something personal. So they arrange for a young boy, a child whose name history has not preserved, to be used. This boy sometimes helped at the Prophet's home. He knows the routines. He knows the moments when no one is watching.
One afternoon, after the Prophet, peace be upon him, finishes making wudu and combs his hair, a few strands fall. The boy's hand moves quickly. The comb, the strands of hair, gone. He runs through the streets of Medina with his hand shaking. Labid takes what was brought to him. He examines it carefully. Then he wraps the comb and the hair inside the dried spathe of a male date palm, and he begins to tie knots, 11 of them. Into each knot, he breathes words, dark words, directed toward the shayateen. When he is done, the bundle looks like nothing, just a small wrapped piece of tree skin with a cord. But it is not nothing. They walk out in the middle of the night, past the sleeping city, past the palm groves, until they reach an old abandoned well, the well of Darwan, deep, dark, forgotten. They lower the bundle down into the water and leave it there. The next morning, the Prophet, peace be upon him, wakes up feeling strange. The narrations in Sahih al-Bukhari describe what followed, a condition where he would sometimes imagine he had done something he had not. Small things, daily things, nothing that touched his prophethood, nothing that affected revelation, nothing that compromised the trust Allah had placed in him. But in the ordinary details of his day, there was a heaviness, a fog. The companions noticed. Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, noticed most of all. Days passed, the condition remained, and then, one night, came the relief. The angel Jibreel, peace be upon him, comes to the Prophet, peace be upon him, while he sleeps and reveals to him what had been done, who had done it, and exactly where the object was hidden. He also brings with him 2 surahs from Allah, Surah Al-Falaq and Surah An-Nas. The Prophet, peace be upon him, sends his companions to the well of Darwan. When they look down into the water, it is discolored, reddish, strange. They retrieve the bundle and bring it back. 11 knots, 11 verses between the 2 surahs. The Prophet, peace be upon him, begins to recite. One verse, one knot comes undone. Another verse, another knot loosens, until all 11 are gone. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, feels as though he has been released from chains he did not know were binding him.
This is where Surah Al-Falaq was born. Not as a reflection,
not as a lesson for the classroom, as a divine, surgical response to a real darkness that had entered the life of the most protected human being who ever walked this earth. If you love the Quran and want to understand it not just with your eyes, but with your heart, stay with this until the end. The surah opens with one word, Qul, say. This is not an invitation, it is a command, direct, clear, immediate. And it is worth pausing on because Allah does not begin this surah with information. He begins it with an instruction to speak, to open your mouth, to say these words consciously, deliberately, with your full attention present. The scholars point out that Qul opens 4 surahs in the Quran: Al-Kafirun, Al-Ikhlas, Al-Falaq, and An-Nas. These are the 4 Quls, and each of them demands something from the one reciting them, not passive reading, active declaration. So when you come to Al-Falaq, the very first word is pulling you out of autopilot and asking you to be present, to mean what you are about to say, to direct it. Then comes A'udhu bi Rabbil Falaq, I seek refuge in the Lord of Al-Falaq. The word A'udhu carries within it a sense of movement. It is not a passive statement. It is the act of running toward a place of safety, placing yourself under the protection of something greater than whatever is threatening you. When you say A'udhu, you are performing an act, not merely speaking a phrase. And you are running to the Rabb, not just Allah in the general sense. The specific name chosen here is Rabb, the one who created you, who sustains you, who has never for a moment stopped caring for what he made. The Rabb is not distant. He knows what you need before you ask. He protects you from harms you never even saw approaching. And then, Al-Falaq, the dawn. The scholars of Tafsir tell us that Falaq comes from the root meaning to split open, to cleave apart. The dawn is the moment when darkness is literally torn in two by the first light of morning. Every terror of the night, the cold, the unseen, the whispers, begins to retreat the moment that light appears. And the one who causes that dawn to break every single morning, without a single exception since the first day of creation, that is who you are seeking refuge in, the Lord of the dawn, the one for whom pushing back darkness is not a struggle, it is simply what he does. The surah then moves into what protection is being sought from. Min sharri ma khalaq, from the evil of what he has created. This is total, comprehensive, every form of harm that exists, from human beings who oppress, to diseases that strike, to jinn who deceive, to circumstances that crush. All of it falls under this one phrase. You are not asking for protection from some things. You are seeking refuge from the evil in all of creation in a single breath. But notice the precision. The phrase does not say from what he created. It says from the evil of what he created. Because Allah does not create evil as a thing in itself. Fire is not evil. A tongue is not evil. But fire used to harm an innocent person, a tongue used to slander and destroy, the evil comes from the direction, the misuse, the deviation. And it is from that deviation that protection is being sought. Then, وَمِن شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبَ, from the evil of the night when it settles and penetrates. This is not simply the absence of light. Ghasiq refers to the deep, heavy darkness when the last trace of twilight is gone and the world is completely wrapped in black. The scholars tell us that the night is when human defenses are lowest, when eyes cannot see what approaches, when the forces that operate in darkness are most active, when fear grows larger than it needs to be. The Prophet, peace be upon him, advised his companions to bring their children inside at the time of Maghrib, to close the doors, to take precaution in those early hours of night. This is the darkness the verse is speaking to, not only the physical darkness, but any darkness that settles over a life, the darkness of hardship, the darkness of confusion, the darkness of grief that will not lift. This verse is your shield when that darkness falls. Then comes the verse that takes us directly back to what happened in that well. وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّثَّاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ, from the evil of those who blow into knots. This refers to sorcery, to what Labid ibn al-Asam did on that night in Medina. And the Quran is unambiguous here. This is real. This is not folklore. This is not magic inherited from another age. The Quran speaks of magic in Surah Al-Baqarah, describing what was taught to people through Harut and Marut and how it was used to cause separation between a husband and his wife. The Prophet, peace be upon him, listed Sihr among the 7 major destructive sins, and his own experience with the magic
of Labid is recorded in Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, the 2 most rigorously authenticated hadith collections in Islamic tradition. Magic operates through the world of the jinn. The practitioner reaches toward demonic forces, offers them what they want in the way of associating partners with Allah, and in return, those forces agree to carry out harm. The knots are not the source of the power, they are the focal point, the ritual object through which the sorcerer's intention moves. And the harm it can cause ranges from what the Prophet, peace be upon him, himself experienced, the heaviness, the confusion in daily perception, to illness, to broken marriages, to far worse. But when you recite this verse with genuine consciousness, with your heart truly turned toward Allah, you are placing yourself under a protection that no knot tied by any human hand can reach. The scholars also note something important here. Beyond literal magic, those who blow into knots can refer to anyone who works quietly and in hidden ways to unravel what is good. The one who goes from ear to ear planting seeds of suspicion. The one who whispers corruption into a marriage, a friendship, a family. All of it is a form of blowing into knots, and all of it is covered by the protection of this verse. Then the surah closes with perhaps its most important verse. وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ, from the evil of an envier when he envies. Hasad. The scholars distinguish between 2 forms of what we might call envy. The first, gibta, is wishing you had what someone else has without wishing they lose it. This can even be praiseworthy, but hasad is different. Hasad is when someone cannot bear your blessing and wishes it would be taken from you. They see your happy marriage and want it to break. They see your provision and want it removed. They see your health, your children, your peace, and they want it gone. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Beware of hasad, for hasad eats up good deeds just as fire eats up wood." Not sins, good deeds. And connected to hasad is the evil eye, al-ain. When someone looks at you or at your blessings with hasad in their heart, that concentrated envy can translate into real harm. The Prophet, peace be upon him, confirmed this clearly. He said, as recorded in Sahih Muslim, that the evil eye is real, and that if anything could have preceded Allah's decree, it would have been the evil eye. Not because anything can override what Allah has decreed, nothing can, but the statement tells you just how powerful this force is. And the evil eye does not always come from an enemy. It can come from someone who loves you, who admires you, who praises you, but in whose heart there is a trace of something they may not even fully recognize in themselves. This is why this verse comes last. The earlier evils in the surah require some degree of deliberate action. The night falls, the magician makes a choice. But envy can come from any direction, at any moment, from anyone. It is the most pervasive of the harms this surah protects against, the most difficult to guard against by any human means. And so it is placed at the end as the surah's final and most comprehensive protection. Now pause and think about how the Prophet, peace be upon him, used these verses. He called Al-Falaq and Al-Nas the Muawwidhatayn, the 2 surahs of seeking refuge. He said of them that nothing like them had ever been revealed. In a Quran of 114 surahs, 2 of them are described in those terms by the Prophet, peace be upon him, himself. He recited them every night before sleeping, Al-Ikhlas, Al-Falaq, and Al-Nas, breathing into his cupped palms and wiping his hands over his body from his face downward. He recited them 3 times each in the morning and 3 times each in the evening, and the narrations tell us whoever recites them 3 times in the morning and 3 times in the evening, they will be sufficient for him against everything. Not some things, everything. The Prophet, peace be upon him, was the most spiritually protected human being who ever lived. He saw what we cannot see. He understood the unseen world in ways that are beyond our comprehension. And this man, who saw Jibril in his original form, who spoke with the angel of revelation for 23 years, who was aware of every force arrayed against him, never considered himself above the daily practice of seeking refuge through these words. If that is what the most protected of all people did, what does it say about our own need for it? We live in a time that dismisses the unseen. Much of the education we receive and the culture we move through insists that only what can be measured is real. And Muslims, especially those educated in environments that treat all of this as ancient superstition, can find themselves reciting Al-Falaq without truly believing there is anything to seek protection from. This surah is a correction to that, not through argument, through the direct, unambiguous word of Allah. These harms are real. This protection is real, and the Lord of the Falaq, the one who splits open the darkness every single morning without fail, is the one you are turning to. Every single morning since the first day of creation, without one exception, the dawn breaks, light comes, darkness retreats. And the Lord who does that for the entire universe, He will do it for you, in your life, in your heart, in whatever darkness has settled over your circumstances. If you turn to Him with sincerity and seek His refuge with a heart that genuinely believes in His power. That is what this surah is. Not 5 verses to be rushed through before sleep. A living fortress, a shield that was placed in your hands by Allah, carried to you across 14 centuries through the Prophet, peace be upon him, as a gift from the heavens to every believing heart on this earth. Labid tied 11 knots to break the Prophet. Allah sent 11 verses to undo every single one. If this story has moved you, share this video with someone who needs it. And if you want to go deeper into the Quran, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss what we put out next. May Allah protect us all from every evil, seen and unseen, from every envious eye and every hidden harm, and may He open for us in every darkness of our lives the light of His dawn. Allahumma Ameen.